What's up, guys? I can't begin to tell you how excited I am for this video. It's pretty unusual that I tell you the tiers before even starting, but for this one, oh come on, you already know what's up. As a kid, descending deep into the tunnels of Cerulean Cave, where wild Pokemon outleveled even those of the strongest trainers, I had no idea what would be waiting for me. A beast so powerful in every regard that it's been uber every generation. But befitting its origins and evolution and innovation, it continues to adapt its destructive power to the atmosphere around it. You know what I'm talking about. Like in the first Pokemon movie, Team Rocket set out to create the most powerful Pokemon in existence, and they succeeded. That's right, it's Mewtwo. What's that? Wait, it's the patron pick this week? Oh you're right. Okay, but can't we do this next week? It's f***ing Mewtwo. Okay, I get it. Fine. Well, what mon did they give me this week? You've gotta be f***ing kidding me. Okay, I guess we're doing this. Thanks a lot, patrons. You know, in a way, this Pokemon is really similar to, the Pokemon we were going to do. It's incredibly rare. It lives in the cave. In fact, a cave close to your starting few cities, but one you can't traverse until later. You know, like Cerulean Cave, I guess. And of course, it's got power to spare. Oh, who am I kidding? No, it doesn't. It's f***ing Dunsparce. How good was Dunsparce actually? And in this video, we'll be talking about these competitive formats. Honestly, I don't even have the energy to be angry about this one. With those stats, I'm afraid just being angry at Dunsparce would be too much for it to handle. And that's for a Pokemon whose signature move is Rage. Even the Pokemon Crystal Handbook called it out for being useless. And this is for a Pokemon based on a mythical creature, the Tsuchinoko. Why is it like this? Alright, I said I wouldn't be angry. I said I wouldn't get angry. It's not like it's Shuckle. Okay, here we go. Dunsparce, as the guidebook so nicely pointed out, was not super worth using. That base 100 HP is nice, and honestly it's got a nice move pool, but what is it going to do with those stats? Dunsparce's best attempts at being quote-unquote standard involved those old Generation 2 reliables, Rest, Talk, and Curse, which at least didn't negatively impact Dunsparce because its speed was already atrocious. As a normal type with awful stats, Dunsparce didn't super mind running only one attack in return, because it wasn't going to be doing much anyways, although Sleep Talk could be replaced by something else if you were afraid of being walled by ghost types. On the special side of the spectrum, Dunsparce could attempt a Sunny Beam set with Flamethrower, the one Dunsparce specific benefit being that it could then try and nail Blissey with a return. Just ignore the fact that return only does 33% to Blissey's health. Yeah, you never saw that. Dunsparce's best hope at a niche was an unholy marriage of its most unique moves, Glare, Swagger, and Psych Up. This is actually a pretty devious moveset. Glare and Swagger create an infuriating pair of fusion hacks. Swagger's attack stat gets copied by Psych Up, and then finally, if you end up being fast enough after the Glare, Headbutt can add a whole nother layer of hacks with flinching. However, again, this set is really destroyed by ghost types, and Mischievous and Gengar were both pretty common. But come on, the great and powerful Dunsparce is aiming for whatever it can get. Yeah, the great and powerful Dunsparce. And as for what it gets, underused. I mean, come on, was there even a question? Actually, Dunsparce did get quite the tool in Gen 3, Serene Grace, undeniably one of the best abilities in the game because it doubles the chance of secondary effects. And that tool made it a tool to play against. Honestly, with how well this synergized with Dunsparce's move pool already, it almost feels like it was designed to have this ability. Glare could be swapped out for the more reliable Thunder Wave or even Body Slam if Dunsparce wanted to be on his Gen 1 or paralyzed ground types. Headbutt, as always, provided stab and flinch, but can now be shored up by Rock Slide and Shadow Ball for coverage against those pesky ghost types. Really, Dunsparce could try to use any move with a good secondary effect, like Ancient Power, Ice Beam, Water Pulse, or other hacks options like Attract. Its big issue was that, although this looks really annoying to fight against, it was also slow as hell, so unless you got that paralysis off, you were fairly boned. Oh yeah, another issue, its stats are still awful. While Dunsparce could potentially lock the opponent into a nightmare of paralysis and flinching, it would die to any strong attack, especially a fighting type move. Overused levels of power were frankly enough to make any Dunsparce run away back into the cave it came from. At least it had a unique niche, which could prove effective in the lower tiers, especially at annoying your opponent, if that was the game you wanted to play. Wait, maybe that's the meta game the patrons are playing with me. In-game, Dunsparce annoys opponents, and out of the game, they're using it to annoy me. I wish I were a ghost type. Usually when a Pokemon's gimmick is taken, it means bad things for their usability. For Dunsparce though, it wasn't so bad. side. Jirachi's new access to Iron Head and Togekiss's arrival meant there were two Serene Grace Paraflinchers and Overuse that far outclassed our Squirmy friend. But since those Pokemon were solidly overused, Dunsparce was able to emulate them in lower tiers. Gen 4 also gave it the new attack Zen Headbutt. Honestly, Dunsparce's move pool was sort of nuts, and with 6 flinching moves, it was ready to bring the annoyance no matter the enemy's type. Body Slam and Thunder Wave were givens, as was Headbutt, but from there it was your choice of Bite, Zen Headbutt, Rock Slide, and even just Earthquake for coverage. Dunsparce could also lean into its bulk with Roost if it wanted. This set really needed to spread paralysis before trying to flinch, because there was absolutely no way Dunsparce was going to flinch anything before getting their paralysis spread. So even though it could certainly do that on its own, it very much appreciated some team support in doing so. And as for counters, look, I've honestly been getting a little hyped about Dunsparce just talking about its weird assault on anything with reasonable stats, but it still gets hard countered. Those coverage moves weren't quite enough to make up for its bad attacking power, so even if it could hit Rock and Steel types with Earthquake, dude, it was Dunsparce's Earthquake, come on. Past that, the simple speed and power any overused Pokemon had would be too much for Dunsparce, as would a physically defensive Pokemon who just shrugged off endless headbutts. But I suppose if Lady Luck is in your favor, you could theoretically headbutt that Pokemon forever until it dies. Finally, if Dunsparce ran into a fighting type, it was Curtains. Special mention has to go to Hitmonlee, who avoided paralysis completely through Limber and then put Dunsparce down. Dunsparce could also try to run Substitute over one of his coverage moves, which took advantage of its ability to force switches, but it then gave up the ability to either hit Steel or Ghost type super effectively. And of course, Dunsparce was still in never use, but at least it did something sort of interesting. Okay, Dunsparce, I see you. Still wish those wings grew into something nasty as some sort of evolution though. I mean, look at it, it looks like a pre-evolution to something. Dunsparce got Coil, one of the best boosting moves in the game in Gen 5, but there's not much it can do with it, to be honest. It doesn't really benefit from the accuracy boost, and the point of Dunsparce is not really to boost either, but Coil did make achieving Dunsparce's conditions a bit easier. But as more and more Pokemon moved into never use, Dunsparce's attacking stats became more of a liability. As such, it transitioned into Roost on most of its sets, because just staying alive and flinching was the only thing it was hoping for. I mentioned last gen that Dunsparce liked other teammates that spread paralysis. It likewise paired well with teammates that could take advantage of paralysis, so slow attackers in never use worked well. But really, this was now a tier where such former beasts as Regice and Golem ran rampant. Dunsparce at this point was just praying for an evolution so it could have a sweet release from being so bad, and at least compete and not fully evolve, or hold an Eviolite. Now, when moving to PU is a blessing because it means you can at least compete with terrible things around you, you know things are bad. Unfortunately, it also meant the death of Dunsparce's signature Paraflinch set. It's not that it wasn't effective, it's just that moving into the bottom of the bottom tiers meant Dunsparce had a shred of hope to try things like Stealth Rock or even actually deal damage. Dunsparce could run rocks along with Magic Coat to prevent enemy entry hazards. It also could run Roost, Headbutt, and really at this point you're playing PU, so add whatever unconventional move your team needs in there. But you guys think I know about the PU metagame? Who am I kidding? Run Dunsparce if you want to, you're not winning any prizes, and I mean that literally and metaphorically. Oh yeah, and as for VGC, up until Gen 6, Dunsparce sets thrived entirely on the concept of locking down a singular Pokemon with Paraflinch. I hope I don't have to explain why when there are 2 Pokemon on the field, that idea doesn't quite pan out as well. Dunsparce's niche was completely useless in VGC, and even though it transitioned to having a Stealth Rock set in singles, that's mostly because in recent time, very low tiers have started to have a more developed metagame. And aside from rocks being less than stellar in VGC, Dunsparce was also certainly not your go-to Pokemon, at least for most players. I guess one could technically theorycraft a Trick Room Dunsparce with like Rock Slide or something, where you have a 60% flinch chance on both Pokemon, but up until now that Brave Soul hasn't come along. And that's it, so how good was Dunsparce actually? God, I miss Mewtwo. It sucked. You all knew that. Honestly, if Dunsparce had good stats, it would be pretty formidable, because look at how annoying Togekiss and Jirachi were in their glory days with Paraflinch. I actually feel kind of bad for it. And for some reason, Game Freak decided this blind, incredibly rare Pokemon would exist solely as a trophy and nothing else. It's no coincidence fan evolutions of Dunsparce are some of the most popular. Give us what we want, Game Freak, because I want a meta consisting solely of Dunsparce reducing your chances to act to 30% each turn. Give me a Fairy Dragon Dunsparce evolution, or something that would be almost as good as Mewtwo. And thanks for watching, everyone. Happy April to you all, and thank you to the patrons for voting for this. Yeah, you guys are real pals. But also thank you to all of you as well. And as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming, I guess, for more weekly Pokemon content. And of course, as I always say, comment on what Pokemon you want to see next. Also, follow my crew on these social media platforms, but you know, you also don't have to follow them. That's cool. And that's all I got. See you next week, everyone.